He's the only president of the Western world that I know that does that. The whole war in Ukraine is based upon like
But do you not
their
see
saints and
you know, there is a reason why Russia is run by KGB agents. KGB agents understand the human mind, and when you have a nation controlled by people that understand the human mind, you have Russia today. And at every echelon, in the 1980s, the KGB controlled Russia. Now you have the inheritors of that still wielding force and control over the
FSB,
nation.
yeah.
Yes, you have that. And that is because they know what the human mind responds to.
See, it's interesting you said that, because I saw an interview in which Putin was talking about the communists.
Yes.
And he said any soldier, I'm just paraphrasing what he's saying, when they had to get up out of the trenches and fight in World War II, they knew there was a God. So what was he referring to? He's referring to that nature of going back to a higher being.
No, he's referring to a destruction of man. An internal destruction of man. Is that beliefs before the First World War had been said and resonated for centuries. They were not questioned. The First World War, it egalitarianized war as a concept. It brought war back to the nation for the very first time in a way that we saw mass scale. So it caused a psychological collapse within the population. And what do you embrace when your internal is collapsed? The external. You seek it in the external.
So I understood from that interview, he knew how to play the religious flute.
Yes.
Because even now, I mean, I'm of the belief that it's possible that he may not even believe in God. It's possible.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, he doesn't.
But he knows, for example...
He knows what God brings to the population.
Yeah, and not only this, he's saying things like something about not offending the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Why? Because again, it's exactly opposition to the West.
No, I'll tell you.
Part of it, no?
No. You like to believe that.
Okay.
But you know the region of Dagestan in Russia?
Oh, yes.
What religion do they preach?
Muslims.
Islam. And it's a prick in Russia's backside.
Yeah.
Because what happened in 2003, the father of Ramzan Kadyrov, the guy that runs Chechnya
Ahmed,
now,
yes.
he was blown up.
Yes.
Mysteriously.
Yes.
What then happened? The Chechen War ended. There were 2 Chechen wars in that time. Russia has been struggling with Chechnya for 200 years because Russia is an identity that for it to succeed, it needs to triumph over what it consumes. So there's a Russian ideology and then there's an Islamic ideology. And these two things are at odds. So what Putin is doing and what Putin does now is he gives more money to Chechnya than to any other nation.
It's really built up.
Yes, because he fears. He fears Chechnya.
So is this why also he is facilitating religion in Russia?
Yes.
Because it gives him authority.
If you think about it, if you imagine a nation birthed in communist ideology, you grow up, you're birthed into it. It's a religion of a different kind. You do not believe in God fundamentally. For the aesthetics, you can believe. Deep in your soul, you do not. So that is what Putin plays on. And he's very smart on playing on it. And he's also very smart with the propaganda he produces. Because Russia is able to invade and colonize, effectively plan to colonize a country. And yet there will still be people arguing against it. Because he has connected that to a struggle of the West. Because he wants it to be a struggle of the West. Because he has nothing else to offer the populace.
So, you know, this is interesting because going back to that thing that you said originally about they understand the human mind and they understand, and if the people right at the top, they understand the human-based psychology, they can control the masses. So now let's go into the explanation of the phenomenon. So we have the nature of going back to God. Where do you think that nature comes from?
It comes from within us. It comes from our consciousness.
In the same line.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Not like that.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It comes from our consciousness.
Right.
We are only different to animals in the sense that we have consciousness.
Right.
We do not understand consciousness, so we try to.
Have you heard of that? I don't know if it's real, but there's supposed to be a thought experiment where you have a cow and it's looking in a mirror and you have a knife. You know about this one, right?
I don't know, no.
But there's something about basically human beings have, from my recall, consciousness that other cows won't. They won't know what the heck's going on. There's a nice here. So
this is a very good point.
So have you heard of the Islamic concept of the Fitrah?
Fitrah, yes.
You have? Okay.
Yes.
What do you know about it?
I think what I say is that the Fitrah, I target it towards myself,
right,
as opposed to an external entity.
Right.
In the sense that those feelings that I talked to Ali Dawa a few months ago, and one of the arguments that he made, one of the psychological studies, is that all humans exist on an island, and if they do not meet the real world, they believe in God. What does that tell you? That in itself doesn't prove God, but it proves humans. It proves the way that humans think. They seek God.
Yeah,
They seek God when there is no external, when there is nothing else.
but I think
apart from it,
there's
they
a
seek it.
I think there's a missing inference. It's not supposed to be an argument for God.
No, I know it's not. I know.
I think that's where the mistake
He was
is.
trying to argue the Fitrah to me.
Yeah.
He was trying to then connect that to God.
Yeah.
But in my head, those two things they're separate.
Like basically the way I would explain it, and I think the way he was explaining it as well, is that in essence there's a phenomena, and that phenomena will always drive us towards that.
Yes.
So which is why I believe, if you look at, for example, the new atheist movement, they're very prominent.
I disagree with all of them.
And where are they now?
No, the thing is that they do not know how to argue. Because what they do, the problem with them, is that they argue in the realms of ideas that the religious create for them. So when I'm engaging...
You mean they're just reactionary?
No, so when I'm engaging in a debate at Speaker's Corner, for example, purposely, psychologically, for me, the best conversations are the quietest. Why does a good conversation need to attract a mass? Does it say something about the idea? The mass is a psychological, overbearing way of trying to push forward your manliness and assert it over the other. But it doesn't actually. If we either delve in the realm of ideas or we delve in the realm of conflict. So that is why do they need the crowd? They need the crowd for the idea to work. The idea cannot work without the crowd.
Do you think that's to do with social proof as a concept?
Yes.
Okay. So going back to this, because I'm sure you understand that you can make inferences from the Fitrah, the way that we describe it. Someone can make a sort of inference from an evolutionary perspective and say it's for social cohesion, it's for this, for that, and someone else can say, well, it's not an argument for God, but it's something that drives us towards God and it's from God. They won't make it as an argument, but they'll say it that way. Where would you fit in?
No, you see in that situation, you're already building a relationship with the external.
Right.
So you internally, you have this fitrah, you have this idea. Then this fitrah needs to be satiated by the external. Because you have to agree, God is not within you.
Yeah, of course.
God is separate to you. So this is a separate entity. So you build a relationship with a separate entity. And you target your emotions and your thoughts and your intellectual ability towards that. You don't see it within. Because that is why religion is so successful. Because a lot of people can't find it within. And then God is an outlet for this, this feeling of self-awareness that we have. It's a fantastic outlet. It operates in such a good way. But my point is I'm trying to find that within me, not within something else. And I'm trying to understand my soul a bit more, at what I react to, what makes me fundamentally happy. Because I think what we should strive for is a happy life.
There is that, but there's also the aspect that if you forget God, you will forget yourself.
Yes, I agree with that. Because God should be within
you. That's from that's an Islamic teaching.
Yes, Islam has a lot of wisdom. I love in Surah Al-Baqarah, there is a phrase about charity and the idea that you can give to God, but it would be better for you to give without telling others. And that teaches humility. It conditions the human soul in a way. It applies to people feel better.
Yeah.
Because of this consciousness we have, it feeds it in a way, and that's why it's so successful. And the way.
Going back to, you have some very good analysis from a history perspective, right? Do you think the future of the West, because I'm of the belief the future of the West is Islamic from the perspective not of conquest, not of invasion, not of immigrants having more children, but simply because Nietzsche's ideas of us having this existential crisis is happening today. People need an outlet. They are disenfranchised with Christianity, so they're going to turn. What do you think?
This is a very good point, but it only reflects the psyche of the population.
Right.
Is that once the problem, what happens in the 18th century, the Enlightenment, and that is when people, for the first time, decided to question fundamental beliefs. And the problem is that those fundamental beliefs have not had an answer apart from religion. Is that up till now, the only thing that can satiate oneself really is that once you become self-aware, because within religion you're bounded to certain beliefs on purpose, because it needs to condition your mind for you to believe in it. But once you step outside of that paradigm, you understand that Islam is a very effective tool because it targets the right parts of the soul, and it puts forward things that we respond to: fear, love,
Hope,
humility,
trust.
hope. These are fundamentally human emotions, and the problem is that when we go outside of it, we can view those emotions, but without the cloak that they take in the form of Islam or in the form of Christianity.
And the thing is, for us to be able to optimize these things, you do need some form of structure.
Yes.
So
and I agree with structure.
Yeah.
I study philosophy.
Okay.
So I believe, like philosophy, unlike religion, you can pick and choose. You know, you can learn wisdom, but you don't need to blindly follow it. You can challenge wisdom, and that will always make you a better man. Because if you challenge, like I take from, do you know the Stoics?
Yeah.
Yes. So I take a lot from the Stoics. I believe in terms of they had something there that was successful, but the complete neutralization of emotion was also impossible.
Yeah. So have you been looking up the works of like Massimo Piglucci?
No, who was he?
So he's a philosopher from City University, New York, big Stoic. Like he's somebody who's trying to. I believe the Stoics came up with concepts which sometimes they just need to be contemporized. I think he's done a good job of that. He's done a good, because we would sometimes think, man, this is so abstract. I don't see how this fits.
You can really, once you apply it to your life, you can see its effects.
Yeah.
But that's what
you need a translation.
But exactly. That's why I say I don't apply it fully, because what the Stoics say, you know, we have power of our mind, not outside events. But outside events inherently influence the mind.
See, now this is an insight which I believe a lot of people who get impressed by these Stoics don't want to speak about.
Yes.
Because what they're doing is essentially going against their masters.
Yes.
Because I never understood this idea that you could totally say my mind is not going to be affected by the fact that there's a coronation going on, there's a war in Ukraine or whatever. It has to. There is, and the other. Do you think there's a vilification of emotions by these Stoics?
Of course, because the vilification needs to exist for Stoicism to exist. To support one belief, you need to villainize the other. Islam does this very well. In Surah Al-Baqarah, right at the beginning. Christians did this, Jews said this, Christians did that, Jews said that, but Allah says this.
So, would you say reason and emotion shouldn't be separated?
They should be combined. You should be able to find it.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think Islam combines them or separates them?
It does both. I'd say it does both. Because it uses the emotions. You know, it uses the emotion of fear, I would say most.
But also empathy, sympathy.
Yes, but the one defining factor of Islam is its mobilization of fear.
It's actually love.
It's love. No, but when I hear the conversation between Christians and Muslims, one of the big things that the Muslims like to pick on is that Jesus will die for all your sins, so you're weak. You can sin all you like.
I see that, but I think that could be certain people are highlighting that aspect of Islam because they're in a debate, but that doesn't actually mean that's the core.
Yes, but when you highlight the opposition to inform the internal, the idea itself is not as strong, because you need to attack. If you need to attack and not question, something is wrong with the idea.
Yeah, I do see where you're coming from, but there's also another element, which is that if you explain Islam holistically, then you won't get this lopsided idea that it's about fear. Because look,
no, I'm not lopsided. It's not lopsided. I'm not saying it's just fear. Right. I'm saying that's it's a key emotion that Islam mobilizes, as opposed and Judaism does the same. Right. I'm saying within Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Judaism and both.
Sorry, could you just move that?
Sorry. Judaism and Islam both mobilize fear more, and that is why there is a trinity in Christianity and not one God. Because in Christianity, the idea of God is different. The conception, what you understand to be God is different. God can be touched. God was talked about. God was spoken about by his apostles. Because the idea of God can be found closer to who you are and not further away. Because fear drives a wedge. Fear drives a wedge. It enforces that wedge.
Yeah. So where would you put yourself in terms of? Because obviously you said you're trying to look for the Fitrah but without going external.
I'm trying to embrace the Fitrah.
Embrace the Fitrah, but the thing is,
but channel it.
but I would say you're not really embracing it if you don't want to connect with the external God.
The external always needs to inform the internal.
Yeah, but if you don't, for example, do you actually believe in a real God? You don't. So I would say you're not embracing the Fitrah.
No, because I'm embracing what the Fitrah gives me, the questions it asks me. Because the Fitrah, I'm within me. You said it's a medium by which, why we seek God because of the Fitrah.
Right.
We seek God because of it. That feeling, that seeking, that idea within you, I channel it in a different way.
So that's not really embracing. That would say repurposing it for a different thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I apologize for my language. But
okay.
Yeah.
But then what I would say is that you would never have true fulfillment.
Why?
Because if we have a human need to connect with God, if you try and harness that need into something else, you're not actually ever going to find that fulfillment.
That's the argument from the ones that embrace God. But what about you can find fulfillment? Because I have found it. I feel I have found it. I found my purpose in life.
Right.
But that's what I mean. Is that when you don't have fundamental purpose, when you don't have it, when you don't, in all aspects of your life, you feel fulfilled, you seek the external, because the eternal is unsatisfied.
Okay, so I would ask you, could you be wrong? Could you be wrong?
Yes.
Okay. And could it be
I can be wrong.
the case that you've just reached maybe 5% of your potential?
Yeah. But my point is that I'm questioning that potential. I'm studiously wanting to learn and grow as a human being. So that's what it is.
So let's speed up the conversation from the perspective of God. What would convince you of there being a God? Nothing.
Because I don't fundamentally. There is a question mark where you have a full stop. I have a question mark.
Okay, explain that.
Because I do not want to characterize. I do not want to build my internal life, the way I express myself, the way I am. I do not connect that behavior to the question of existence. For me, they are fundamentally separated.
No, okay, I see what you're saying, but that doesn't actually give away your position, though. That's just, if you like, a pragmatic approach that you have.
It's a position, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you've actually come to.
The point is that.
I mean, you haven't addressed my question.
I have actually. Because the point is that, well, like I said, where you have a full stop, I have a question mark. Because the existence of a God doesn't affect my life today. So even if I was wrong, and even if I went to hell, it doesn't affect who I am, because I have lived a life, and I don't need heaven and hell to inform my life today. You see, because we build, in Islam, you are built, in Islam and Christianity and Judaism, there is a relationship built between this life and the afterlife.
Yeah.
And the afterlife is purposely, the 72 virgins, it is purposely better. It is purposely better. So,
But do you know that in this life, for example, in the Quran, it mentions, in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest. And again.
Rest.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm saying I find rest in a different way.
No, but it could be that you've only reached 5% of what your heart's capable of.
Yes.
So, for example,
I have reached paradigms. What I said, I've reached axioms. Because in philosophy and everything, you need axioms. There are fundamental truths about this world. Everything else needs to be questioned.
So where would your self-evident truths be?
About the way about how an honorable man should treat themselves. You shouldn't kill yourself. You shouldn't kill others. You shouldn't. There are things that you shouldn't do because it makes you feel bad. And I would say one of my fundamental truths is that true wisdom is found in interaction and the mobilization of reason and emotion. Once you understand the golden mean between those two, you understand fulfillment.
What I would say to that is that what you're saying, I agree with, but it does not actually. It's not mutually exclusive with belief in God. You can believe in that and believe in God.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Your attachment, what you have to God, I have to philosophy. Do you understand?
But then you could just be reaching 5% of your potential, and it could be that you've missed out on the paradise on this earth.
These are different axioms. Religion and philosophy exist separately.
Okay, that I don't agree with.
But it's a choice we have to make.
I would say from a purely epistemic point of view,
epistemological.
they all begin from the same sort of root.
Yes, they
Because they
begin
all-
within the mind. They begin within the question of a certain, and they seek a certain answer. It is the belief within. It is the the need to strengthen yourself.
So are you a coherentist or a foundationist?
Coherentist.
Okay, I'm a foundationist.
Okay, yeah,
That's where we're different.
That's exactly.
Okay,
That's
so-
what I mean. When we have different axioms, especially in this place, it's quite difficult to understand each other. So it's almost like we are speaking the same language, but we're speaking very different languages. Because what fundamentally drives our beliefs are different things, are different emotions. Certain emotions are categorized over the others. But anyway, my friend,
It's very good speaking to you.
Very good chat.
speaking to
So
you.
you finishing your
no, I'm finished.
conversation?
Yes.